President said yesterday, the Prime Minister of Canada is a tough negotiator.
Mr. Speaker, give me $1 trillion and even I will say something nice about this.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a debate and welcome to Pierre's Playground. What do we always say on Northern Perspective? Anything can happen, anyone can win, just like Proline. And that's what happened today, but except anyone can lose. And the person who lost was Mark Carney in question period. But before we take you to that, we ended up running into a special guest outside Parliament Hill. Let's take a look. Ladies and gentlemen, the funny thing about Ottawa and Parliament Hill is you never know who you're going to run into. And I was walking along the street in front of one of the Parliament buildings, and look who I ran into, folks.
Oh my gosh, hi. Hi, everyone.
One of our favorite former MPs, Michelle Ferrari, former MP of Peterborough Kawartha. Michelle, what are you doing here?
Well, if I told you, I'd had to kill you. No, okay. I'm just kidding. I'm up here doing a little bit of work, working with some of the MPs and doing some of my new world stuff. And I got today for the first time to watch question period from the gallery. I haven't done that, right? Normally I'm watching inside or I'm sitting in the seat. So
or yelling at us from the
right.
seat.
Normally, yeah. I learned pretty quickly you're not allowed to do that in the gallery.
So Carney just came back from his trip to the US, and there was a lot of expectations from Canadians because his PMO didn't say even what the trip was even for in the first place.
Right.
So a lot of Canadians were expecting a deal, no deal as he came back. And things were pretty fired up in question period.
It was a really heated one today, and I think the take-home message is the Liberal Party is the going-to party. They're going to make your life better. They're going to get a great deal with Donald Trump. They're going to bring down tariffs. They're going to reduce crime. They're going to make the economy better. Man, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't hold my breath waiting for the going-to party.
No. If all your promises are promises to do something and you never actually have to deliver, that sounds like almost the dream job, but the Liberal job.
Wow. And I think, I mean, we joke and I'm being facetious and sarcastic, but this is real people's lives at the other end of this. And that's the reality. And that's why I think it's really important for people, wherever you sit on the political spectrum, to sort of say, listen, you have a job to do. You're not doing that job, and giving away $1 trillion when we don't even have enough money to take care of our own. It's a major issue, and it's broken promises. It's somebody who ran a whole campaign, elbows up, I'm going to do this. It's not what he did with Donald Trump is the issue for me. It's that he lied to voters and manipulated them, that he was the best negotiator. He was going to get a great deal. Well, folks, guess what? He's home, and you get nothing. You get nothing, and that should upset you, and you should be paying attention.
Well, and this is the problem, because we as Canadians didn't vote for an additional $100 billion in deficit spending.
No.
We didn't vote on this massive increase in defense spending. Now, don't get me wrong, I think a lot of Canadians are for properly equipping our armed forces.
100%.
But it needs to be in a plan. It needs to be in a, what's that word? It starts with a B. What's that word? Oh yeah, budget. A budget.
It'll balance itself.
Yeah, apparently, because he ran on the same principles as Justin Trudeau. We'll just dump a bunch of money in the economy and everything will just come up millhouse. Like, that's what he said.
I'll actually tell you what I saw today. I saw a very inexperienced man in Parliament. And what I mean by that is Pierre Poilievre put a lot of pressure on Mark Carney today, and Mark Carney could not handle that pressure.
Now, let's take a look at question period. Question period today was absolutely crazy, but not for the normal reasons you might think. Question period started, Pierre got up, he started questioning the Prime Minister, and they had their back and forth exchange, and then that ended, and then question period was supposed to continue on as normal. And it did, until about halfway through at the 33-minute mark. And then something happened that doesn't really happen. Pierre stood back up and started asking questions again. That doesn't happen. Why did it? Well, at the time the question period actually started, from what we're told, Pierre ended up getting some intel from the United States that prompted very important questions that Mark Carney was completely unprepared for. And we got to see again the real Mark Carney.
So from the top, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition from the top.
One day after the Prime Minister met at the White House promising that he would fight for Canadian workers, we learned from the U.S. Commerce Secretary that there will be no relief for Canadian finished automobiles. This after 700 Oshawa GM workers lost their jobs with $4 billion of GM money going to the U.S. 900 CAMI workers in Ingersoll losing their jobs with those jobs going to the U.S. and 150 workers at Stellantis being sent home while $8 billion of Stellantis money goes to the U.S. The Prime Minister failed to stand up for auto workers yesterday. Will he do so now?
The Honourable... the Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Watch your pressure. He's the Prime Minister. You can call him.
Mr. Speaker, I am pleased to report that the Prime Minister and the President had a very productive discussion yesterday on steel, on aluminum, on energy for the benefit of the Canadian economy, and on auto. I remind my colleague of the President's words. We want Canada to do well making cars, so we will get there. Mr. Speaker, I encourage the Leader of the Opposition to take a look at even Ford Canada in my riding of Oakville and to realize that on this side of the House we are building.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Are you kidding, Anita Anand? So let me get this straight. During the election and during the Liberal leadership race, you can't trust anything the president says. President Trump, he's a blowhard. You can't rely on him, but we will handle him. We will go elbows up. And now, in a rebuttal to actual statistics and actual facts of job losses in Canada, Anita Anand is basically saying, oh, Donald Trump said this, you should trust it. Well, you can't have it both ways, Liberals. It's one or the other. You either trust Donald Trump or you don't trust Donald Trump. But now you're saying to Canadians, put all your faith in Donald Trump. Liberal voters, are you paying attention to this?
Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Prime Minister refused to stand up for our auto workers, and today he refuses to stand up for our auto workers. How can he sit right there while the U.S. Commerce Secretary just came out and said the 25% tariffs will stay in place? Despite the Prime Minister's concession after concession, he backed down on counter tariffs, backed down on the DST. Yesterday offered $1 trillion of Canadian investment money, and still he can't win anything from our auto workers. What does he say to those thousands of auto workers that are out of work because of his weakness?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, what we have at this point with the United States for the auto sector is the lowest tariff in the world, less than 10%, lower than Europe, lower than Korea, lower than Japan. We have the lowest tariff, and we are still negotiating because, as the President said yesterday, the Prime Minister of Canada is a tough negotiator. We will get a great deal.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Okay, Mark Carney has now departed reality. He's now referring to himself in the third person. And based on everything that Pierre just said of all the capitulating you did, your retort to that is, Donald Trump said the Prime Minister is a good negotiator, so that means I'm a good boy. Are you insane? Are you insane? Or is he? I don't know what he is. This is new territory for Question Period and Mark Carney, folks. Let's see where this goes.
Here we go. Mr. Speaker, give me $1 trillion and even I will say something nice about this guy. Oh my God. How much is it going to cost to pay Canadian investment dollars to flatter this Prime Minister's ego? Yep. It would make you laugh if it didn't make you cry, Mr. Speaker. But for the workers in Ingersoll, in Windsor, and in Oshawa who have lost their jobs after the Prime Minister promised to protect them, how will they ever trust this Prime Minister again after he betrayed them? I think we're beginning to see how it is that the President has been able to bulldoze over this Prime Minister. He won't even stand up when he is confronted by the Americans. Just over an hour ago, a report came out that the U.S. Commerce Secretary said there will be no relief for Canadian-made automobiles going into the United States. The Prime Minister is back down on counter tariffs, back down on the DST, back down on defense. Yesterday promised to push $1 trillion of private sector investment out of our country. How is he going to look those Canadian auto workers in the eye and tell them how he got nothing for them in return?
Yeah. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, it is a sad day in this House when the Leader of the Opposition suggests that standing up for the defense of this country, when the Leader of the Opposition suggests that spending to defend our borders, that spending to defend our fulfillment in NATO, that is backing down on defense. We will, shame. Now, we have the lowest tariff on autos of...
Speaker, come on, we can't even hear anything.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Carney's literally yelling at Pierre at this point. Why? Because Pierre got him. He got him. He got under his skin and said, would the real Mark Carney please stand up? And ladies and gentlemen, that was the real Mark Carney. He was mad. His ego was taking a hit. And the best part is the Speaker let it happen. Didn't interrupt. He ran out of time, and now Pierre gets to rebut.
Mr. Speaker, at least he finally got up, but he didn't address the question about auto workers. There are auto workers who are sitting at home right now who do not know how they're going to pay their mortgages. This Prime Minister looked them in the eye and said he was going to protect their jobs. And then he said he would put his elbows up. And then he said he would get a win by July 21st. Then he said that he would have a deal. There's been no deal. There's been no win. And now for these workers, there is no job. Today we learned that he's backing down again on auto tariffs. Why is it that he's selling out our auto workers at a time when they need him most?
What a rebuttal. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a debate. And welcome to Pierre's playground. Mark Carney, he is an amateur. He does not know what to do here. He's the CEO. He's used to sitting there barking orders. Everybody listens to what he says, and nobody challenges him. Well, welcome to Parliament, Mr. Carney. Welcome to being a Prime Minister, and welcome to being a public servant, where you get to get challenged everywhere you go.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we...
Come on, Mr. Speaker, listen to this.
Japan, the European Union, the United Kingdom, every other other country in the world is paying a higher tariff than Canada has gotten on automobiles. And we are not done. That is why we have not signed an accord on autos. That is why we are fighting hard for our auto workers. And I put the president on notice yesterday about the consequences of not having that accord.
The guy who surrendered everything put the president on notice. I'm sure Donald Trump is shaking in the White House. Mr. Carney, you can barely get through that sentence, and you're trying to say that you put Donald Trump on notice. The consequences. What are the consequences, Mark Carney? Seriously, what are the consequences? We're all ears. What are you threatening to do? Like, surrender the country now? Is that what you're threatening to do? Because that's all that's left.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. President, you have been warned. If you put in another tariff, he's going to give you yet another $1 trillion. This is the tough negotiator that we hired? The guy who broke his promise to have a deal on July 21st. A guy who broke his promise to negotiate a win, who simultaneously removed the counter tariffs while he was giving speeches promising to have them in place. And yesterday offered more concessions to the U.S. president, knowing that the tariffs that are killing our auto sector would stay in place. Why does he always back down and give our jobs to the Americans instead of standing up for Canada?
Okay, I just want to make sure we're ready before we go to the... The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, and I think it's important for the entire House to understand that we have a strategy with the United States that means that our auto sector is paying less than 10% tariff. When Japan, when Europe, when the UK, when the rest of the world is paying 50, which is bigger than 10 or higher. And we are not done yet because we refuse to sign a deal that isn't better in the interests of Canadians. And that's why
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, he is already signing a deal that makes us worse off because he makes concession after concession after concession while getting nothing in return. Yesterday, he announced that his policies will drive $1 trillion of private sector money out of our country as part of the agreement that he is going to sign with the United States. That means factories and plants closing in Canada. Most of all in our auto sector, which is on the verge of being wiped out after he promised to save it. So can he tell me, did he demand the president lift all tariffs on Canadian autos, yes or no?
There's a saying in sports, if you can get your opponent to stop playing their game and start playing yours, you're on the road to victory. And that's what's happening here. Pierre has dragged Mark Carney into his game. And he's attacking his ego by saying he's not a tough negotiator, he's insulting that, and not even insulting it. I should actually rephrase that. He's calling it out based on reality. None of what Pierre has said is actually incorrect. So you can't dispute that. But I really got to commend the way Pierre is standing up, and he is passionately standing on the side of Canada and Canadian workers. Not against Donald Trump, against Mark Carney and the Liberals. So the way he's framing this is beautiful because he's trying to show Canadians what we all know, is that the Liberals are not fighting in the best interest of Canadians. And he's trying to show everybody that this is what the Conservatives are trying to do. Mark Carney is saying, well, we may have 10% tariffs, but it's not as bad as everybody else. Yeah, that's the narrative from the Liberals. We're doing great because it's less bad than all of our partners.
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, our agreement yesterday, the President and myself, is to focus now on steel, on aluminum, on energy, the building blocks of our broader competitiveness, including our auto sector. Those negotiations on autos continue from a position that is the strongest in the world. 10 is less than 15, which is less than 25, which is less than 50.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Zero is the paycheck that those workers who've lost their jobs are getting right now. And Mr. Speaker, 7th is last place in the G7 when it comes to growth, or in this case, negative growth. This Prime Minister has to get his excuses straight. He blames the tariffs for the fact that we have the second highest unemployment in the G7 and the fastest shrinking economy. And then he claims at the same time that the tariffs are really not so bad. So which is it? Why is our economy so weak? Because of his diplomatic failings abroad or his disastrous economic policies at home?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as I've been saying all this year, long before the Leader of the Opposition caught up, the U.S. has fundamentally changed its trading policy with everyone. It is a rupture. In that environment, Canada has the best deal. But what we are doing is controlling what we can control, which is building Canada strong. November 4th, that side of the House is going to have a chance of whether they're going to build alongside Canadians a generational investment in an ambitious future for us.
So that's the end of the big debate. And wow, wild, just wild. We saw the real Mark Carney come out, folks. We really, really did. And he barely even talked about Canadian workers. There's only one person that was talking about workers. It wasn't Mark Carney. So anyway, that was something, folks, and that's going to generate a whole bunch of buzz, no doubt, and already has in the time that I'm actually recording this. I'm recording this at 9:30 at night, and I'm sure this is all over social media now. But holy moly, folks, something else to see. You didn't even need to watch the first half of the question period. This felt like two different sessions, but you know. The polls are already going down for the Liberals, and I expect it to continue. Anyway, let's shoot back to our to the rest of our chat with Michelle Ferreri.
So Carney just came back from his trip to the U.S., and there was a lot of expectations from Canadians because his PMO didn't say even what the trip was even for in the first place. So a lot of Canadians were expecting a deal, no deal, as he came back, and things were pretty fired up in question period.
It was a really heated one today, and I think the take-home message is the Liberal Party is the going-to party. They're going to make your life better. They're going to get a great deal with Donald Trump. They're going to bring down tariffs. They're going to reduce crime. They're going to make the economy better. Man, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't hold my breath waiting for the going-to party.
No. If all your promises are promises to do something and you never actually have to deliver, that sounds like almost the dream job, but the Liberal job.
Wow. And I think, you know, I mean, we joke, and I'm being facetious and sarcastic, but this is real people's lives at the other end of this, and that's the reality, and that's why I think it's really important for people, wherever you sit on the political spectrum, to sort of say, listen, you have a job to do, you're not doing that job, and giving away $1 trillion when we don't even have enough money to take care of our own, it's a major issue, and it's broken promises. It's somebody who ran a whole campaign, you know, elbows up, I'm going to do this. It's not what he did with Donald Trump is the issue for me. It's that he lied to voters and manipulated them, that he was the best negotiator. He was going to get a great deal. Well, folks, guess what? He's home, and you get nothing. You get nothing, and that should upset you, and you should be paying attention.
Well, and this is the problem, because we as Canadians didn't vote for an additional $100 billion in deficit spending.
No.
We didn't vote on this massive increase in defense spending. Now, don't get me wrong, I think a lot of Canadians are for properly equipping our armed forces.
100%.
But it needs to be in a plan. It needs to be in a, what's that word? It starts with a B. What's that word? Oh yeah, budget. A budget.
It'll balance itself.
Yeah, apparently, because he ran on the same principles as Justin Trudeau. We'll just dump a bunch of money in the economy and everything will just come up millhouse. Like, that's what he said.
I'll actually tell you what I saw today. I saw a very inexperienced man in Parliament. And what I mean by that is Pierre Poilievre put a lot of pressure on Mark Carney today, and Mark Carney could not handle that pressure. He didn't have answers. He didn't know. And his answers are incomprehensible because he's not saying anything. And you know, for all of those critics who go, oh, Pierre Poilievre's a career politician. Well, you know what? That's exactly what gets things done, because he knows how the system works, the procedures, and he knows how to navigate that very system. And we saw that today. If you watch Question Period, whether you watch it or you don't, that's exactly what we saw today. We saw a very, very weak Mark Carney, who is way out of his realm, who made promises he's not delivering on, and you take the bill. And it's unfortunate.
Well, there's a lot of problems going on in Canada, but we're going to dive into this in a little bit more detail later, because Michelle is planning on coming by the Northern Perspective studio for an in-studio interview, folks. So
yeah, they're going to fly me out in my private jet. Mark Carney's jet?
Mark Carney's jet, sure.
Okay.
Sure.
All right. Actually, I think that's Stephen Guilbeault's bicycle right on the other side there.
No, he took it in. That's Gord John's, actually.
Oh, okay.
I watched Gord John's come in, so
He knows.
you know, reduce the climate footprint, folks.
He knows more about the people up here on the hill than I do.
Anyway, folks, we're going to say goodbye to Michelle Ferreri, and we look forward to having her in studio, and keep it up on the hill.
Let me know what you want me to talk about. Thanks, guys.